La Ruche is a platform that allows people to create local communities in order to buy food directly from the local farmers. And the way it works is like each community is going to be started by a local entrepreneur or a group of people that decide to connect local farmers to the local customers. They will set up their own small marketplace on top of a platform, and this way, every week they're going to be able to propose produce from the local farmers to the local people. People will be pre-ordering online, and once a week, people will meet the farmers in a local collection place where farmers deliver food directly to the customers.
So you have 700 marketplaces in France, but you also have some marketplaces in UK, in Germany, in Belgium, in Spain, in Italy.
Yeah,
so you started in 2012, 2011.
In 2011 in France.
Okay. And you just raised
8 million euros.
With a Union Square Venture and
some American VC, UK VC, French VC as well, so a bit from everywhere.
Okay, so you're basically what I love, a super French, European local startup growing on a European market and not going directly to the US. So let's go back to the beginning of it. What I wanted to ask you is, how did you meet your co-founders and how did it go the first 3 months working together?
So I met the guy who got the idea initially is not me. He's one of the two other co-founders. His name was Guillaume, and he developed the initial concept and was looking for people who were going to be able to build the platform. Maybe tech people, engineer, but in the end he met Munir and myself, were the two other co-founders who were not with having a technical background. On my side I was mostly like a web project manager for like 6 years maybe, so I knew how to translate a demand into a project, organize a team, organize a development of a platform. And we met in September 2010 through a web platform. We met Guillaume. We found the idea was extraordinary. And we say, okay, we're going to develop the first version of the platform and get 1/3 of the capital of the company. And that's what the initial deal. We were thinking, okay, it's going to be only for 1 year. But the thing is, after 1 year, the project was so huge and with so much potential that I said, okay, I'm going to focus and put all my energy into that project. And after a few years, I became the CEO of the company.
So it's a community-based platform. You started the first year by talking about the project and teasing people around it. How did you make this happen?
Yeah, so before having like the platform ready, which is pretty complex because you have many stakeholders and they are all empowered because of your platform, we had to see if there was going to be enough demand for people to organize these local communities, what we call the local host. Do we have people that want to have this role and to set up the local communities? So for 1 year, we did a lot of communication. We built a brand. We have, from the beginning, the same name. We have which has a very strong identity, the same logo with a house that makes it very warm. And we had a website, very simple, with a cartoon video to explain the concept and to start recruiting people to be a local host. So we're starting to have like some media interest about the project, and we try to be talked about in very specialized magazine that would have the interest of people that want to have maybe a better life, looking for organic products and so on. So we had a few articles, and this way we're able to have demand for hosts. So when we started in September 2011, we already have a group of maybe 20-25 hosts that were ready to start a community local project. And it was all around France from the beginning.
So from the beginning, you have 3 different people you address. You have the farmer who produce, you have the host who gathers the space and talk to the farmer, and the people who will finally buy and consume. So the first target for you is the host.
Yeah, of course.
That's your focus.
Yeah, that's our focus. The focus is really the host because in our platform, we don't need to have farmers and have customers all over the country. We need to build very small and local critical mass, which is also the good thing. So we need to find the local host, and we need to empower them so they can find the local farmers by themselves and the local customers by themselves. So from the beginning, we gave them a lot of responsibility. And the one, especially at the beginning of the project, who were succeeding in building the communities of farmers and customers were the one who were going to be able to launch the project. And so that, because, to recruit, especially to recruit farmers, you cannot recruit farmers with advertising or
Facebook ads.
Facebook ads, it's not working like that. You need to go
there
in the countryside, talk to them, create trust. It's very difficult, especially in the beginning. It's very, at the beginning of this project, in every country we started, it's very grassroots.
So can you explain a little bit in more detail, how did you empower these hosts? What did you provide to them? Was it a kit to convince farmers? How did it work?
So we gave them a lot of tools. Like, of course, the more we grow, the more tools we give them. So there was like they have a guide, like what to do, how to convince farmer. They have like communication material. They have like, especially what was working really well, especially in the beginning, was the community of hosts. On the Facebook, we had like a group with all the hosts, and they can share tips, where they are, where their
a secret group, a closed group?
Yeah, a closed group, of course. And we had like someone dedicated to supporting the host coordinator from the beginning in the company. We were spending a lot of time with each host over the phone, especially the first host. You like speak to them almost every day over the phone. So after that, of course, when you grow, you don't spend that much time with them. But during the onboarding time of the host, we spend a lot of time and energy.
So this is key, because we could say finally that the beginning of all the adventure of La Ruche started with a Facebook group, a secret group, with this kind of trust and tips and tools, education basically, exchange between your precious ones, the host.
Yeah, very quickly you set up a community of ambassador, and you spend a lot of time with them, and you need to have the trust, especially in your project. If they mistrust you, then it can be a lot of problems. I remember in the beginning of the Facebook groups, like when we have a problem with one host, you can like say a lot of bad stuff about us, and so it can be a lot of problems.
Backlashes, yeah, definitely, I can understand. So from these people, you tease, you explain. What were you, in terms of technologies, there was nothing you gave to them apart from gathering them around a vision. And what else?
Yeah, we gather them around the vision, but very quickly we set up the technology. Okay. So even if we launched in September 2011, they already had like their initial website, and they can start building the community from 6 months before. So they have the tools to recruit farmers. They have like to register them on the platform, to recruit the members, to start communicating. In a way, we decided in the strategy first to build some communication tools within the platform before building the commerce tools, which is maybe weird, but that's the way we did it. So pretty quickly there was a platform, but then we can talk about the platform. We made a weird choice, I would say, now with a you mean in terms of technological I think
language?
I think in a way, we built a MVP that was already too developed.
A big thing.
Yeah, a big thing, like I think sometimes it's better to build a very, very, very simple MVP, even without technology or using existing technology, experiment, and then start building a very good platform quickly. And what we did is like we built an MVP that was having
much complex.
All the complexity. We built it in 9 months, but all the bases, all the architecture was pretty cheap and bad, and all the development of the first platform was offshored. So we used that platform that we tried to grow during maybe the first 3 years of the project, and then we started all over again, and we built a new platform with a good architecture, but it took us a lot of time. So we had our new platform only early 2015, so 4 years after the beginning of the project. And I would recommend to go with a very much more simple MVP, experiment 3 months, and start growing your good technology then very quickly. So maybe 18 months after the beginning of the project, you can have a good platform and start growing faster. Hopefully, we were very early on our market, so we didn't have competition and we had more time to build our technology.
At the beginning, were you already taking the 8% of the transaction?
For the business model, we have a funny story. So at the beginning, we say, okay, we're going to take 10% and the host is going to take 10%. That's easy. 80% for the farmer, 10% for the company. But the way we calculated it, we calculate 20% like you calculate VAT like on the complete price. So people were thinking, okay, I had 20% to my selling price. And in fact, it was not that. On the total price, it was 8.35 and 8.35. So at one point, we changed our communication. So people don't think it's 20% more, it's 16% more than what they get. So maybe that's complex, but that's where I think we should have gone with 10% plus 10%. That would have been better. But I want to say something about the business model. I think we defined it too quickly, and because of that, when you set up your commission model, it's very, very difficult to change it. And on our side, you have 8.35%, and it's very low. So, and we cannot grow it because now it's like that, and we will never be able to change it. That's a big problem. Maybe it would have been better to change it, to start with 15 and 15, and then lower it down after one time, but
you cannot go in the other way.
It's very difficult. You can, but you can have a big backlash.
Disappointment.
And when you depend so much on local communities, it can be a big problem, and we cannot go into that.
Yeah, because I was thinking with this commission model exactly what you said. Like, if I'm a farmer, for instance, and you tell me that you take a percentage, then I will make my price bigger.
Yeah, and whatsoever, whatever is your percentage, people are never happy. They always complain. So it's better to start big, maybe, and lower it then after one time.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about the market you are focusing on. We're talking about agriculture. We're talking about a very important thing, which is eating well. And basically, La Ruche is a model. You are kind of automatizing the model of CSA, right?
Kind of, not exactly.
Not exactly. Yeah, like because you change the membership model. It's not.
We're in a hybrid model. I say we have part of our model is more looking like a farmer's market. Part of it, like the community side, is looking more like CSA model, which is community-supported agriculture. So it's kind of a mix, but it's mostly more like a pop-up market, pre-organized in advance, which has a lot of benefits, especially for farmers, because they know exactly what they need to bring.
They've been paid.
They've been paid, yeah.
And they know exactly what they have to distribute. But my question is more on the side of what have been the reaction of this kind of collectivity already organized when you arrive on such a hard market, because it's a market that is going down, and we know in France especially the power of the farmer is as hard as the taxi driver.
So the thing is like what happened in France. The CSA model grow in opposition to the consumerism model. So people build this model with only free work. Nobody was getting any payments.
Benevolent.
Everybody was working for free. But because of that, maybe it was difficult to attract bigger audience, and people had to make subscription in advance for 6 months, 12 months, not choosing what they're gonna get, and a lot of constraint in terms of for the consumers. So we were thinking, okay, what we're gonna bring is gonna have much more benefits and maybe attract more people and be a good solution for the farmer.
For the farmer and the client.
Exactly. So quickly, when we decided to set up the model, of course, we had to invest a lot of money, because we say, in order to grow a local food system, we need to have technology to make it working better everywhere. And we launched the model, and quickly, people from the CSA model, they saw that they think
we were competing.
We were competing with them, which was not the idea, and they say, okay, they are competing with us, and they take a cut on what they're selling, and they are very bad because they took money from big investors. And in fact, one of our biggest, of our early investors, not bigger, very small investor, was Kima Ventures. And Kima Ventures is the VC
Of Xavier
Niel, who is one of the biggest success in technology in France. And at that time, he was backing a lot of innovative startups. So he was doing a lot of good stuff for the ecosystem. But people said, oh, you see, Xavier Niel is trying to make money out of the farmers. So very quickly, like in 2012, we started to have articles against us. But at that time, we didn't. People were not aware. We didn't have like a big reputation. We were very new, so it was only within the network. But 2 years afterwards, when we started to have a lot of awareness about La Ruche, they published a very bold article about La Ruche on their blogs, you know, and with a lot of lies, but saying, look, La Ruche, they make a lot of money out of the farmers and they're financed by the big capital and the bad guys and so on. And we couldn't control it, and it started like to be like that, spreading everywhere over the internet, and it created like really like a big clash and a big tension. Well, we tried, you know, before that to give our hand, like to say, okay, maybe come with us, maybe we can support you with the technology and make your model better. But they didn't want to listen to that. They didn't want to work with us, and it, you know, it was for us. It was very difficult because they were attacking us on our values. Because saying we were making money at one point, we were not even making money. You know, we were just losing money because we were investing to make it better.
Typically, an example of toxicity, meaning like you have an entrepreneur making money because that's the way, and ideologically speaking, they disagree, so they attack.
Yeah.
And that must have been hard because there is no solution when it's
there's no solution.
Ideology, a clash.
And that's very difficult, I think, in France and maybe in other countries in Europe. It's like when you're small, that's okay, but then once you're starting to have some kind of success, at one point you have such a clash. And we were not the only one with this kind of clash with existing movement, you know. Maybe BlaBlaCar got a lot of clashes. Also, all the companies, you know, that try to build a business with big social values, with a big social impact, they have a lot of clashes because a lot of people think that it's bad to make money. But how can you scale a model with a big social impact if you don't make money? It's not possible, you know. So they contradict themselves as well, you know. They want to have impact, but in a way they keep it very alternative, so they never have a big impact.
Yeah, I get it. So in a way, this big bad pressure of this media article, it make you become maybe more famous. When I see, for instance, Uber got a lot of downloads and subscription during the strikes of the taxi driver. And did you see this on La Ruche?
It brings more people to us, but we're very different from Uber in a way, you know. Like the way we grow the business is smoother, you know. We don't go quickly and try to disrupt quickly an existing market. We try to bring a new value proposition. I'm not criticizing Uber, you know, it's a way of doing stuff. Maybe the way we do it is more French, more European. We don't want to go to the clash too quickly. We are very careful, and maybe that's why we don't scale as fast. But you know, after this clash, I think at one point, because even ourselves, we were between 2012 and 2014, we never really know like what should we do, you know. Should we continue to raise capital in order to grow? Should we stop raising capital in order to be more independent, or maybe go to a more cooperative model? We're always hesitating in between. And with the clash, at one point we say, okay, we're not gonna just see other companies get bigger. We're not gonna keep it low, because even, you know, we're not going to have impact if we do that. And we know that if we want to succeed in our vision, and our vision is to scale local food system and to make them more mainstream, we're going to need to raise a lot of capital. We're not going to need to make a lot of technology. But maybe there's a toxicity thing, we did it, I think, too late. We should have maybe raised more capital earlier in our history.
You did it with smart money. I mean, the people who invested didn't tell you, go to the US right now, even if they were US based.
I think because of our values and because of our very hybrid model, and as I tell you before, we were between
specificities of being in.
But before for business model, we're really between a tech startup and a social enterprise. We didn't want to raise bad capital, so we were very, very careful when we were selecting the investors. So even when we decided early last year that we were going to raise more capital, we really take the time to select the person that was understanding what we do, understanding that our model was not going to grow like that we need to be careful. It's a complex industry. We not only building a logistics solution, but we try to reinvent the complete food value chain. So it's very complex. So we need to find the right people. And in a way, and that's maybe the funny thing in the story, the people I met who I think really understand what we were doing were people in the US, and not in France. And I met first Fred Wilson from USV in December 2014. At that point, I was like, okay, I'm just going there because it's fun and to meet one of the biggest VC in the world, but we'll never get investment for them. I was like, it's not possible. We're very French and we have very specific identity. And when I met him, I was very clear from the beginning about our vision. I was like, we have a very special project. I like to share the capital with the community. I like to do this kind of stuff. We don't want to raise our commission. We don't want to grow too quickly. I was saying the truth, I say sometimes also, maybe it's an advice to entrepreneurs, say the truth, say what you think, don't create a wrong vision just to please the people, because you're going to get the wrong people. And in a way, like Fred Wilson was listening to me and telling me the story and the original thing they did for Kickstarter or for Etsy, which are also companies that are very big social vision and want to do stuff differently. Say, they look different, it's not like, different from French VC. And so I said, okay, let's go to New York. And we went to New York and presented La Ruche to the full board of USV. And yeah, it was a great experience because I say, it's the first time during a presentation of our company, we have questions that are so good, and people really also maybe seeing the next step even after what we're going to do, having interest in the blockchain, very decentralized model, and not only thinking okay, we need to build a model that's going to make a lot of money quickly.
Now.
And I think what we do maybe in the long term is going to have a lot of success and make a lot of money, and that would be good because that means it's going to have impact at every level. But it cannot be like that. Otherwise, we're going to do the wrong decision. We're going to select the bad farmers. We're going to want to go too quickly. We're just going to think about the convenience and not about the value for the farmers, So we need to be careful not to compromise ourselves. So find the good people. But also capital can also have a good thing because on the other side, it can also push you to be able to grow and to scale. But be careful not to find people that want you to grow and scale too quickly, I think. I don't think it's good. It can kill the values of the company. It can kill the company itself. So even today, I'm very careful, not recruit high profile too quickly. Be careful, find a good mix between internal promotion and new people arriving. Try not to spend money too quickly. Try not to use marketing too much. Be careful about a lot of things in the mix in order to first grow the idea, adapt your product, make it as good as possible. Try to create a product that's going to generate a lot of word of mouth. For us, a lot of network effect, not only rely on short-term growth, even if it's important for sure.
Let's talk about the scale in Europe. So it's interesting, first in terms of brand. You have a name in France. We have to say it's La Ruche Qui Dit Oui. It means how do you say?
The beehive that says yes.
The beehive that says yes. And the other name is Food Assembly. To go abroad, you cannot have a French name, of course. But finally, you realized that it was so local, and you need so much to create this trust with people who don't use the internet, with farmers and with local consumers, that you adapt your name to each country you go. So you have in Germany, what's the name? You can pronounce it?
Yeah, but in Germany it's the same. So far, yeah. Because to tell you the story at the beginning, when we started to expand abroad, we say, okay, let's find an English name, and we say Food Assembly. It's everybody can understand it. It's easy to understand the concept. It's a good name, but it has less charisma than our French name. But quickly, especially in Spain, realize that nobody get the name, especially when you go in the countryside, and the people don't get it. In Germany, we said we kept the Food Assembly name, but what we found that is with this European name, European identity, we're not attracting the good type of people that were really going to be our good customers and our good hosts. We're attracting younger hosts, more like hipster, interested in the technology, while in fact our core target, the good host and the best customers, are mostly moms, people 35 to 50, the same in terms of members and so on. And if you don't find the good host, people that are really deep roots to their local communities, the project is not working, because you're gonna have only hipster coming to do one order and don't doing it the great way. So when we grow abroad now, we use a local name in every country. So for example, we just launched the Flemish part of Belgium, and we called the company Boeren en Boeren, which means farmers and neighbors, but it has something funny, charisma, it sounds well, and it works directly. I don't say it's only the name, but it worked. People, understand the name, relate to it, identify to it. It's very important. And in Germany, we still have the English name, but we decided to change our name. So at the moment, we're looking for a new name in German in order to grow outside of Berlin, because at the moment we too much in Berlin, and we don't have the best type of customers for the company.
And in order to scale, you need to have the right host. Have you seen any common pattern in all over Europe around what is a right host?
Yeah, of course. We now we know what is the best pattern. We know it's moms. We're deeply the host. Moms. The clients, it's mostly people above 30. It's usually, in our model, people need to pre-order, so they need to be already in a kind of a routine to organize themselves. And usually people who don't have a family yet, don't have children, they are not into that. They are not well organized. So it's working mostly with young families, or mostly people between 30 and 50 years old. It's not the classical startup.
The good host is someone who can convince the farmer. It's someone who already live in the countryside, who knows the local culture.
Yeah, someone who is very deeply rooted in its local community.
And already involved in
maybe in the school community, maybe that's been living there for 5 years, know everybody, and going to be able to, and
how do you target this host?
Customers are going to identify to the host also, so you need to find the good people. Yeah.
How do you meet them?
I think the best way to find the host, what we're seeing is to find the first one, usually through the existing food ecosystem. In every country, there's people already looking for organic, good local food. So you can tap into that. We are very grassroots when we start, and to find the first host. And then what we try to do is to have a media momentum, and to have media momentum with the good host, so people are going to see that all over the country and say, oh, I want to do that as well. Also, this is the first thing, media momentum, and also network effect. People living around, they're going to hear about the local community, they're going to go there, they're going to see it's a great experience, it's a great mission, I'd like to do it as well, and they're going to say, okay, I want to do it as well, and they're going to go on our platform and talk about their project, and then we're going to say, okay, your project is solid, we can accept you within the network.
And this is something that you had at the beginning, the host Facebook group. Do you keep it locally?
In every country, yeah. In every country, we have a host Facebook group. It's very important in our project. We really like a collaborative project, but sometimes we see only the Ruche level, the community level, but the more collaboration we have or cooperation is between the hosts themselves and between the farmers. That's very key to the success of the project.
And they are on a separate group?
So farmers is very different, they don't have time to go on social networks, but they meet during the collection and then they work together in order to optimize the logistics. So more than half of the farmers today, and also when they want to grow within the network, they share logistics and they work together to make it happen.
And for the host, it's a kind of revenue that they can make.
So they make an additional revenue. So there's two commissions, as you know, the one for us and the one for the host. So at the beginning, it's really like an additional revenue. It cannot be like a full-time activity. In France, it's between 400 to 500 euros per month. But what we see now that we're growing is like more and more hosts want to make it a full-time revenue. So in France, we have many hosts that opens like multiple communities who have really big communities within the big cities, and they make it a full-time revenue. And now the interesting thing is like half of the hosts in France want us to make it a full-time revenue. So we need also to change the way we grow our business in order to find new opportunities for these hosts so they can grow their own business within the platform.
You keep this 1 week frequency.
Yeah.
This is something that stays.
That stays, but it's not, like we have even if we try to have our model very clear to make it understandable by the people, it also has a lot of flexibility. So people can adapt some of the stuff locally. They can adapt the image, they can adapt what the activity, the way they organize the collection, and they can adapt like the regularity of the collection. So we have a lot now some communities that have 2 collections per week, and I think it's going to grow in that direction.
Okay, but they can actually, when you say you empower the local people, that's also their tool, and they do the way they want to.
And that's also very special. It's like from the beginning we say, okay, we empower them, we give them like tools, communication kit, and so on. But if they want to build their own stuff, their own flyers, even if we think, centrally that it's not nice, it's not beautiful, say, okay, do it, express yourself, be creative, experiment, Even when we have like a big communication operation within the country, we say, okay, always try to have some stuff you can do yourself locally. You can create, to have something different and to make it more adapted to the territory.
I guess you have a lot of waiting list of people who want to become hosts, and how do you manage them and how do you select them? And
so we've been more and more harsh on the selection process, not because of ourselves, but also because of the existing host. They don't want us to allow anyone to step into the network. So today I think we accept 20% of the requests. But we put much more energy than in the beginning for the onboarding process. So they have like in-person training, they have more material, more training resources. We put a lot of energy because we don't want them to fail. But at the beginning, we had to accept a lot of failure. We had to accept, at the beginning, we were accepting every request, and where people were coming into the funnel and they were starting the building, and maybe only 20% were succeeding in starting their community, and on this 20%, only half of them were succeeding to be there after 1 year. Now it's completely different, but you need to do that because we created a new job, a new activity, so we need to understand how it works, we need to define it, and at the beginning you cannot do that. You need to leave a lot of flexibility for people to experiment, see what works, and then make it something common for everyone.
When you develop a new country, who do you recruit? What type of person, and how do you manage them?
The difficulties of our business is that you need to do a business, but you need also to grow a community. So you need to have people that are really community focused, and usually they are not very business people. So you need to find a good mix of both typology of people, and in the beginning they don't have a specific role. They are more like pioneers, ambassador. They're gonna go in the local ecosystem, make your project well known, find the first local host, and so on. And then after we find the first 10, 20 hosts, then we set up the local team. And the local team is always 5 people, someone supporting the host, someone supporting the farmers, someone doing customer support, someone doing like local communication, and a local manager. And we always have like small teams of 5 people, and today we have 11 teams of 5 to 7 people in France and Europe.
Okay.
Yeah. Even in France, we are not only in Paris, which is like very specific. We have 5 teams over the country. Yeah.
And so now how many people?
120.
The amount of developer, people who are focused on the product.
Yeah.
So today on 120 people, we have like between 30 and 40 people, engineers, data scientists, project manager, product owners. Now we have a big team. We set it up. Like it took a lot of time, but now it's here.
Okay, and the rest is community-based and logistic.
And organizing the community, and of course we're going to have like central services as every company.
How do you make these two kind of groups work together?
They need to understand the work of the other, you know, they need to understand at the beginning sometimes people doing like a network coordination, they didn't really understand the technology, or they were jealous of like the bigger salaries of the tech people. They were not really working together. Also like the tech guys, sometimes they were not understanding like the needs of the community, so we had to bring them in the countryside to see like community in action. So we had a lot of times also when we had like a seminar where people were talking together, explaining their work to each other. And also I think we had like a big momentum within the company. When we launched the new platform in January 2015, we launched it too quickly. And during 3 months, 4 months, it was like a mess. We had a lot of bugs, a lot of problems. And then I think people understand like why technology was so important, because they were not realizing it, you know, and they understood like why we needed to have like a great technology and hire maybe more senior people. And now, you know, I think it's people understand that better within the company. But that's also an historical thing in my company that's very special, because we were two main co-founders. I was taking care of the technology team, and the other one was taking care of the network team. And at one point in the first year, it was like there was like 2 companies within one. So that was very special. So it took us like a few years like to mix the company, and I had to become like the manager for both teams. Otherwise, it was like 2 different companies.
How do you spread the culture inside your company?
So a lot of ways of spreading the culture. I think we have a culture around food from the beginning, and from the early days in the company, we decided, okay, we're going to organize lunch within the company, and people, workers, employees are going to cook for the other employees, and every day, and we still have this ritual, people are cooking in the kitchen for all the company.
So, you know, like this is kind of like building the culture, but our culture is built also around our values. I think being like respecting also some of the criteria of social enterprise is very important within the company.
Like what, for instance?
So, for example, we have a salary scale that we try to keep as low as possible. Today is 1 to 5, and everybody knows it. But also we have a transparent salary grid that's very special in the company. That's very difficult to maintain, but it's working. And since we have it, people are less jealous about each other. Also, we organize the governance so it can be as collaborative as possible. So, for example, we build the roadmap with all the employees, the product roadmap. That's very special. It's a long process, you know. You can think, oh, it's going to be very hard, and at the end of the day, my product is going to look completely different from what I'm thinking as a founder. But in a way, it's not true, because you know where you want to go. So you lobby for your vision within the company, and doing a roadmap or building the strategy
together
in a collaborative way, it's going to change maybe 20 or 30% of your vision. But this is what brings the collective intelligence and make it better, and ensure that you're going to get the support from all your team. I think it's more work before, but then it's better afterwards. So all these little things, like all these organizations thing, this transparency, participative way of doing stuff, allows us to have like a very special culture and allow to have like people that are really motivated to come to work and to support like the projects of the company. But also, and we need to say something, it's like our project already have like big vision, you know, we're here to change the agricultural sector. And we have a lot of the employees, not all of them, that come for that also.
Yeah.
So they want to change it, you know, they want to have a big impact. And that's very powerful from the beginning.
So people are proud in your team to work for.
They are proud, yeah, and that's why also it was very complex when we started to have like so much criticism from the historical CSA system, because people were not understanding. Okay, we made something with such a big vision and so nice values, and people criticize us. You know why? You know.
Can you teach me a little bit about the cultural differences that you've discovered?
I think like the most difficult for us was to adapt the culture of the HQ when we started to spread in new territories. You know, because at the beginning, people in France were not really accepting that we were going abroad, and we had to change the way we work in France. We had to start doing keynotes in English and not only in France, and it took maybe 2 years, you know, to do this process. It's very difficult, and also because we didn't want to make like a switch from D1 to D2. You know, some company did that, but our French culture is very key also in our company, so we had to keep it. So that was the first difficulty. Then the other difficulty, and I told a little bit of that before, is like when we started to go abroad, we said, okay, let's have an English name, let's have the same marketing and the same communication everywhere. And it was all wrong, you know, we had to spend a lot of time to adapt all the message, all the marketing, all the communication material to every country. Because in our project, there's a lot of different value proposition, and what is the best one for each country? It's not always the same one. So you need to adapt everything. And it's very difficult because I don't think you can really do it before being there. You know, you need to have a team. You need to understand your first host and clients before doing it. So it took us a lot of time. Of course, we didn't adapt the product. You need to be careful. You adapt a lot, especially with a local value proposition, your marketing and communication, but you don't adapt the product. You need to be careful about that.
But like, for instance, in the UK, I guess people were already educated about this type of exchange.
You can find some people educated there. What we find out in the UK, for example, it's like people are way more used to work in groups. So we discovered that to have one host doing stuff by himself was not working really well. And it was better to build a group of hosts. While in France, I think people are much more used to being working alone. And it's coming from the education. In school, we used to compete and to work everyone on each side. And in the UK, on our side, and in the UK, it's very different. They're more used to work in group from school. So it's worked better when they build a food community, food assembly as a group. That's interesting.
And in Germany, for instance?
In Germany, like the difference, like it takes a lot of time for people to trust you. Really, like they're gonna read every detail. You need to have like much more information on your website, much more copywriting to explain what you do and to get the trust. But once you get the trust, people are really into it. You know, you can really trust them. So that's very interesting. While in Spain and Italy, they will say, "Oh, okay, I do it. I come directly into the project." But then it's difficult to rely on them. So it's cultural difference. Also, like we see the entrepreneurial spirit is stronger maybe in the UK than in Spain, Italy. Sometimes you find that something that can find very common thinking about the cultural difference are in fact quite true. But you know, I think what is nice being from France is like we have already a lot of cultural difference when you speak from people in Alsace or from people in the Southwest or from people in the Côte d'Azur. It's very different, and we find like some of the cultural differences that we find in all our neighbor countries. That's maybe the chance we have of being like a
trained
central country close to a lot of different cultures. We already see the difference in our own country.
And do you want to go to other countries? Where do you want to expand?
I don't know, we do it like step by step. First, there's still a lot of other countries in Western Europe where we're not, and it's already a first step. So this year we're going to launch in Netherlands, Denmark, and Switzerland, and we'll see afterwards if we continue growing. I think every year we need to start new markets, especially that with our business, it's always 2 to 3 years to make it really work. So maybe next year, if we succeed, I think now we really need to have like a bigger success in UK, Germany, Spain, what we started 1.5 years ago, and then if it shows like a good growth, now maybe we can accelerate.
And it's you're focusing on food, but it can be sometimes natural cosmetic. It can be craftsmanship. It can be, any creation could be sold through.
It can, it's happening, but it's really on the side. Like our main focus is fresh local food, So it's you need to be focused. If you want to do everything, you're not going to do everything well. We want to bring good fresh food to people, but it's already a lot of. If you go like in a big Ruche in Paris, you'll see you're gonna have like up to 500, 600 produce. So it's gonna be meat, fish, vegetables, fruits, bread, a lot of stuff. You can buy almost all your grocery there.
Okay, and your vision is very decentralized, and so
that's the basics of what we do, and it's very different. And we have to be very clear about that with all the people joining the company, because it's not natural. People, they always think that to make it better, they need to do it by themselves, and you need to tell them, don't think that. Say, the way we do it, it's going to be better in the end. It's more complicated. It's going to be to empower the people so they do it by themselves, decentralize everything. So that's something we're going to keep true with. Never change that model of being decentralized. Never, never, never. Never centralize the logistics. Never centralize anything. And always work with local entrepreneurs. Never try to replace ourselves, the local entrepreneurs, because they will always know better their local reality better than us. We bring them something they cannot have locally, the technology, the structure, the services, and so on, but they bring the
local values and knowledge,
and the local differences, and that's what's going to work, and why people will trust La Ruche more than maybe traditional supermarket.